What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. On today's episode of the podcast, I bitch about being a Kings fan. And you may say, Adam, how is that different from any other episode of the podcast? And to that, I say, it's the conference finals edition of me bitching about being a Kings fan. So strap in. I just had to watch Tyrese Haliburton, a former King, have one of the best playoff games that we have ever seen last night. So we will talk about his excellent performance and the Pacers on the verge of eliminating the Knicks. We are recording this during game 5 of the Western Conference Finals with the Thunder up 3-1. We'll talk a little bit about that series as well and what the outcome of that one means for guys like Ant, Jalen Williams, and the future of the Thunder and the Wolves. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening, and we love to hear from you. Email me and let me know what the dumbest thing your team has ever done is, and I will email you back and top it because I am a Kings fan, and I guarantee you that my team has done something dumber than yours. But for now, let's grab Matt and let's bitch about being Sacramento Kings fans. Let's go. Matt is here, fresh off of, well, we're recording this during Western Conference Finals Game 5.
Yeah.
Which terrifies me because the last time we recorded during a game, Jason Tatum tore his Achilles. So just keep your fingers crossed for Ant and Shea tonight. Hopefully nothing horrible happens. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you?
I'm pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. The reason that I am not doing well today is because when I was 10 years old, I decided to be a fan of the Sacramento Kings. And for the next 25 years, because I'm going to be 35 soon, I have let that decision ruin the NBA season for me every single year. Last year, I had to watch Luka Doncic go to the NBA Finals. Mm-hmm. And I had to watch this whole magical run where, you know, they win in the first round, they eliminate OKC in the second round, and they kill the Wolves in the third. I didn't think that being a Kings fan could get any more painful than watching the guy that we passed up on to draft, Marvin Bagley, take his team to the NBA Finals. Then we come back this year, and I have to watch Tyrese Haliburton, who was on my team, take his team to the Eastern Conference Finals and very likely the NBA Finals after they go up 3-1 on the Knicks last night. The Tyrese Haliburton thing, Matt, is more painful than watching Luka. I think that not drafting Luka is a bigger mistake than trading Tyrese Haliburton because Luka's a better player. But I want to remind everybody that we drafted Tyrese Haliburton. He comes in and says, oh man, I love it here. I want to change the culture. I want to retire here. I want to win a championship here. And our management looked at that and said, fuck this guy. We don't want anybody who's going to change our culture or try to win anything. We need to trade him and build around De'Aaron Fox. And when Tyrese Haliburton was informed that he was trading, he, and I quote from an Athletic article, sobbed uncontrollably because he didn't want to leave Sacramento, the city that we cannot pay people enough money to come to in the first place.
Yeah.
He's like the only person who's ever been to Sacramento in their lives who wasn't like, I think I want to leave. He loved it there. He wanted to be there. And you trade him. And now he's better than at least anybody we've had since Chris Webber.
Let me make this worse for you. Do you know?
Can you?
How? Oh, I can. Just wait until you hear what I say. How bad do you have to hurt someone in order to have them embrace Indiana?
Yeah.
Like,
he's probably going to be a Pacer for life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was talking to my dad about this.
You don't let him walk out of that building.
I was talking to my dad about this today because he's like, well, if he loves Sacramento so much, maybe he'll come back there. And I was like, no, he never will, because he will never be a free agent ever.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you would have to be a complete and total fucking moron to let Tyrese Haliburton like leave your team.
Yeah.
If you ever had Tyrese Haliburton and you let him leave or forced him to leave, in our case, it is so stupid. He was in his second year when we traded him. He was in his second year, and he was like, he comes in as a rookie, averages 13, 3, and 5 on 47, 41, 86 shooting. So like good efficiency, great passer, good on defense. Comes back the second year, and in 51 games, 14, 4, and 7 on similar efficiencies. And they were like, yeah, but we could trade him too. And so they trade him. And part of the deal is that they also get rid of like Buddy Hield and Buddy Hield's big contract.
Yeah.
Along with some other stuff. The fact that you gave away the best player in the trade and part of the return was shedding salary. Just any deal where you give up assets to shed salary is a bad deal. The Red Sox did this with Mookie Betts, where they traded him to the Dodgers and they accepted less of a return than they should have because the Dodgers also agreed to take David Price. And if I'm the other team, I'm like, wait, I can get Mookie Betts or Tyrese Haliburton for cheap because you don't want to pay someone?
Yes, please.
It goes into the pantheon of stupid shit that my franchise has done. And it honestly is up there with taking Bagley over Luka. That's how bad it is. This team had De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton and the second pick in the draft with Luka Doncic in it. And we have turned that into Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Domantas Sabonis. And nothing else. We have future protected picks. Like we traded Fox to the Spurs, and I know that there's a lot more complications with that, with like him forcing his way out. And we're like, you know what we're good getting back is Zach LaVine, who Chicago could not pay to have anybody take him. People were like, yeah, Chicago, we don't really want your future first. We're good not having Zach LaVine on our team. And we're like, yeah, we'll take him and some heavily protected first from the Spurs. So that's what we have now. And we have to watch everybody that we passed on. Like we have to watch Luka go to the finals. We have to watch Tyrese Haliburton go to the finals. I want to say I'm at my breaking point with being a Kings fan at this point, but this is how I know that I'm a true fan and that some of you listening to this don't understand what true fandom is, because the feedback I always get is, well, Adam, why don't you just not be a Kings fan anymore? You think I haven't tried that? You think I don't want that? You think I enjoy this? Do any of you think that I actually like basketball? I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't like basketball. I wish I didn't like the Kings. I wish I didn't torture myself with a stupid decision I made when I was 10. But here I am, a grown-ass man with 2 children, and I'm fucking pissed. I spent my whole day pissed because Tyrese Haliburton goes 32, 12, and 15 in an Eastern Conference Finals game against the Knicks. I almost had to turn that shit off last night, Matt. It was physically painful for me to watch. It was the 4th game in NBA playoff history of someone dropping a 30, 10, and 15. Oscar Robertson did it twice. Jokic did it once. And now Tyrese Haliburton. Guess how many turnovers Tyrese Haliburton had last night, Matt?
0.
0 turnovers. He took over 20 shots and had 15 assists and did not turn the ball over one time. The first time that's ever been done on a 30-point triple-double. He had a 30-point triple-double and didn't turn the ball over once. And I have Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Domantas Sabonis. And you all have the gall to tell me that I should just decide not to be a Kings fan, like it's a choice. Matt, my dad's birthday was a couple weeks ago, and he wanted an ice cream cake for his birthday. So I said, don't buy the big ice cream cake because we're not going to eat the whole thing. We're going to leave half of it here. And my wife and I are going to devour the entire thing that same night. And we don't want to do that. And he's like, well, you don't have to eat it. Like I'm physically capable of not eating a half of an ice cream cake that he left in my house. Just like I'm physically capable of not being a Kings fan. These things are, I'm going to eat the whole ice cream cake.
It's gonna happen.
I'm going to be a Kings fan until I die, hopefully early, so that I don't have to watch this shit anymore. And
Yeah.
you know what makes matters worse, Matt? The only good thing I have in my sports life right now is Drake May. So I have the aforementioned Kings. I have the Boston Bruins, who were horrible this year, and then moved down in the lottery. It's a 4-player draft, and we moved from 4 to 6. So that was cool. We have the Boston Red Sox, who suck, but have one of the best prospects we've seen in a long time sitting in Double-A and refuse to call him up because they're afraid he'll win Rookie of the Year. Because the way the MLB works is that your service time, you have that whole service time rule where you
Yep.
can get paid. You can't go to free agency as a rookie until you've done service time. Well, if you win Rookie of the Year, you get to take a year off your service time, so the team has to pay you a year sooner. And he's so good that the team is afraid he's going to win Rookie of the Year and that they'll have to pay him sooner. The Boston fucking Red Sox are afraid that someone is so good they're going to have to pay him. And you all say, Adam, just don't watch sports like it's a choice. Like it's a choice for me, Matt. I honestly, right now, I wouldn't if I could.
I've been there, man. Shit gets dark.
My favorite basketball team is the Kings. You know who my least favorite basketball team is, Matt? It's the Kings.
Yep.
Hate this team. I hate this team so much. And the thing I hate the most is that I love them. I wish I knew how to quit you, Sacramento. Someday they'll move the team. And maybe then I'll be free. Maybe then. But you know what's more likely is that I'll be like the Seattle Supersonics fans who are still like, that's my team, even if it's gone.
Will they move it though?
I don't know, man. They have like a 30-year lease on their stadium. So they're pretty locked in, but like, as long as Vivek is running this team, this is it, man. They just hired a new GM without searching for a new one, right? No search. They just hire Scott Perry, who's been out of the league for 2 years. They're like, hey, we're like a point guard away from being a good team, which is just like the least true statement in the history of basketball. And so my full-on expectation, like what they should do this offseason is tear it down and get anything they can for like Sabonis, DeRozan. Zach LaVine is here for the foreseeable future. You can't pay somebody to take Zach LaVine right now. But basically anything that's not nailed down. You're probably keeping like Keegan Murray and Devin Carter and Keon Ellis. And everything else, get literally whatever you can for it. But probably what they will do, because they're a bunch of idiots, is trade one or two of the guys I just mentioned along with future picks for someone like Trae Young. And they're going to be like, oh yeah, Trae Young, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis. We're going to win some games. We're a competitor now. What do you think the defensive rating of those four guys is going to be next season on the court together?
140?
Yeah. That's an optimistic estimate. And when they go all in for Trae Young this offseason, I'm going to have to log on to Kings Reddit and watch people post like, hey, man, I know we didn't get Luka and we don't have Hallie, but you know who's pretty good? Trae Young. Look at his stats side by side with Haliburton. I'm not going to do anything, Matt. I'm not going to fucking do anything because I'm stuck being a Kings fan. I want to say I'm going to scream. I want to say I'm going to claw my eyes out. I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to screenshot it and send it to you and just be like, look how stupid this is. And you're going to be like, yeah. And then I'm going to move on. And this team's just going to keep getting eliminated in the play-in. Welcome to basketball hell. We are so back. On a side note, thank you for letting me vent. All of my venting gave me an idea for a business where I think I'm going to open a business as a sports therapist. And I don't mean like someone you call in when you got the yips. I mean like someone who does telehealth visits for people who need to talk about their team with like an unbiased third party that they don't know. And so you could set up a telehealth visit with me and we'll FaceTime and you'll just be like, my team just thinks Mason Rudolph is going to be an acceptable quarterback this season. And I'll be like, yeah. And how does that make you feel? Sad? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you guys feel when you traded away 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson and gave him the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of quarterbacks? Yeah? Pretty bad, huh?
Like I'd been touched by Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's just going to be my business now. Is like, you want to complain about your sports team? I'll FaceTime you. Just do like a little telehealth visit. You could just talk to me about it and I'll be like, yeah, man, I'm a Kings fan. So literally whatever you're going through, I feel your pain. Because I too am a fan of one of the worst franchises in all of sports to be a fan of. Like what are the worst franchises, Matt? The Browns.
Yeah, Kings, Browns.
Those two by far take the cake.
Yeah.
I mean, like everybody else who's bad, I can think of a good thing that happened to them in the last 25 years.
Yep.
Right? Like people are like, oh, it's hard to be a Jazz fan. But like, dude, you had the Stockton Malone run. You had the Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer. You had the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. And while you didn't win a championship, like you had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, okay, maybe the Charlotte Hornets could be up there.
Yeah.
Pretty awful to be a Hornets fan. I feel like we're missing someone obvious. Maybe like small market baseball teams.
Yeah.
But like even the A's had the Miguel Tejada, Barry Zito, Tim Hudson, like that star-studded team. The Royals, didn't Royals win a World Series recently? I know they at least went to one.
Yeah, I don't know that they won one, but I mean,
the Rockies
had good years.
Yeah, well, they went to a World Series recently. The Rockies went to a World Series in 2007. I know they're 8-43, which is the worst start ever, but you at least have 2007, guys. So
yeah,
Rocktober. They lost to the Red Sox, which will never happen again because we're afraid to pay Roman Anthony. That just, man, I have always said that out of my 4 favorite sports teams, the Red Sox were my favorite. The Roman Anthony thing has officially changed it. The Patriots are now my favorite of my 4 favorite sports teams. And that's probably only until the season starts because our wide receiver that we just paid 3 years, $70 million is on a boat with 3 prostitutes passing around Molly on social media while everybody else is at voluntary OTAs. So that's cool. Really cool.
The Stephon Diggs experience was well documented before they went out and paid him.
I knew what it was. I knew what it was when we got into it. I hate Stephon Diggs. I've hated Stephon Diggs forever. It's like when the Red Sox signed Johnny Gomes. I'm like, I hate Johnny Gomes, but he was good for us. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll get over it for a year. And I was hoping to feel that way with Stephon Diggs, and then we're not off on the best foot
Yeah.
right now.
Well, and now the word is that he may not be ready to play until like what, week 4 or beyond.
Yeah, but that I expected. Like he's coming
Yeah,
back off a torn
but
ACL. I
if
didn't
you
expect this year to be great anyway.
right, but like he's up there in age. He's doing this shit off the field. You're not gonna get him from week 1. And you combine that with his age, that means when he does come back, you're gonna get him at like what, 60%? Maybe 75?
Yeah, but this year, I don't know. Can we talk about something else? I hate this. This is the worst podcast ever. This year was the like, you're okay with this year being the like rebuilding year for him, right? It's next year that you want him to be good. Can he be good next year? I don't know, but it's a low risk contract because they have a lot of outs. Anyway, the Indiana Pacers up 3-1 after beating the New York Knicks at home yesterday.
After game 3, I was actually gonna text you this, and for some reason I didn't. But I was sitting there thinking, like, the Pacers have to be careful here. Uh, because if they dropped game 4, then you go back to New York, like at that point, like not only have you given away the advantage that you already secured, but like we're giving a team momentum heading back to their home court. Like it honestly said a lot to me that they were able to come out and like take the game that they needed to take to all but put the series away. Like obviously they still need to win their 4th game, but I mean, they're sitting pretty right now. So
Yeah, I mean, I would expect them to win one of the next 3 games
yeah,
against the Knicks, right? And if they don't, we'll be having a different conversation here.
yeah,
The thing I think is so funny about this series, though, is like, so the Pacers go up 3-1, and there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of social media videos and stuff today of people being like, does the Brunson and Cat pairing even work? Can you even have those 2 guys out on the floor? And like, who can they trade this offseason? We need to blow it up. This is not working. Should we fire Thibs? Blah, 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 blah. You guys are literally one insane shot in game 1, that Tyrese Haliburton game tying shot that hit the rim, bounced like 20
yeah,
feet in the air and then went in. You are literally that shot away from being a 2-2 series with home court advantage.
yep,
Like the series has been razor thin. It's the first series in NBA history where both teams have blown a 20-point lead at home and lost.
yeah,
Knicks in game 1, Pacers in game 3. And it's just so funny how we look at things because of one shot, right? Where it's like if
yeah,
Haliburton misses that and it's 2-2 right now, none of us are having a conversation about if Jalen Brunson is good enough or the fit between Jalen Brunson and Cat. But because of that,
Mhm.
there's a ton of podcasts today where people are like, oh man, what could they get for Noodles Bridges? And what could they get for OG Anunoby if they traded him? And should they extend Cat? And like, what do they do? And blah, blah. It's like, don't do anything. Why on earth would you not run this back next year in an East that's
Yeah,
going to be weaker than it was this year? People
yeah.
are like, they missed their golden opportunity. Holy shit,
No,
guys.
next year is the golden opportunity.
Next year's a great opportunity too. Like, if I were the Knicks, win or lose this series, like say they lose, even if it's in the next game, right? You lose in 5 or you lose in 6. I'm not looking at this and being like, I need to make wholesale changes to this roster, especially because they're kind of already all in. I would look at this and just be like, okay, how do we add like one more reliable dude?
Mhm.
Right? Like, okay, so who's my backup point guard next year? Because right now it's Landry Shamet, and that's not getting the job done. And like they don't want to play Deuce
Yeah.
McBride anymore. He's not getting the job done. People are like, what's wrong with Jalen Brunson? Like, I don't know, dude. He's a small guard who scores a shit ton of points, right? He's never been good on defense. But
Yeah.
I would look at it and be like, okay, so is it like Deuce McBride and, one of my younger guys like Precious Achichua? I can never say his last name, right? What can I get for those two guys? Can I get like a rotational piece? Like one more guy can play in a playoff series.
Yeah.
Maybe a defensive minded guard, right? Like that's what I'm looking at. I am not going out this offseason and being like, what can I get for Cat? Who just like literally won you game 3 pretty much by himself by scoring 20 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But you want to tell me that that's the guy that you should get rid of? Like, it's just insane how much things change because of a shot or a game or a series, But I want to talk about the Pacers a little bit, though, because I was thinking about the Pacers a lot recently and thinking like the Pacers have pretty much always been good our entire lives, or like they've always been competitive. And I went back and I looked at the NBA since 1989. And it's kind of an arbitrary year to pick, but I picked that year because it's the first year the Pacers made the playoffs with Reggie Miller. So they draft Reggie Miller in 1987. They make the playoffs for the first time in 89. Matt, since 1989, who do you think has the most conference finals appearances in the NBA? There's two teams tied for first and 3 teams tied for second.
The most conference finals.
Most conference finals appearances.
Appearances.
Not wins, just have appeared in the conference finals.
I mean, I'm going to guess simply because you're asking this question that on this list is the Pacers.
Yes. The Pacers have appeared in 10 conference finals in the last 36 years.
Which sounds insane.
Well, let me tell you who the other teams are. So the Spurs and the Lakers are tied with 11 conference finals appearances.
That makes sense.
Indiana has 10, which is tied with the Celtics and the Heat.
Yeah.
The Indiana Pacers, the only team in NBA history to never have the first overall pick. A small market that, like, who's the biggest free agent the Pacers have ever signed?
You
can't
tell
name
you.
them. You can't name them. And I guarantee I can't name them either. I don't know. They've never signed anybody. Nobody signs in Indiana. They've made 10 conference finals. So it's been 36 years since that 1989 season. They have been to the playoffs 27 times, which is 75% success rate. They've been to 10 conference finals, 93, 94, 97, 98, 99, 03, 11, 12, 13, 23, and 24. 24 being this year, the 24-25 season. So 28% of their seasons in the last 36 years, and at least in a conference finals appearance, they've been to the finals once, which they lost. And they'll probably go to the finals again this year. And I just kind of looked at the roster building aspect of this. So they draft Reggie Miller in 1987. He's there till 2004. They go to 6 Eastern Conference finals and 1 finals in his time there. In 2000, they trade Dale Davis for Jermaine O'Neal from the Portland Trailblazers. 2002, they trade Jalen Rose and some other stuff to the Bulls for Ron Artest, Brad Miller, and a couple other players. So that kind of fuels that 03 run.
Yep.
So Miller retires, and the first draft after Miller retires, they draft Danny Granger, which is the 05 draft, which is the start of them building to this team that goes to the Eastern Conference Finals in 11, 12, and 13. They draft Paul George in 2010. The one massive mistake they've made, so I don't want to just give them all the credit in the world because they make mistakes too. They traded away Kawhi Leonard or the pick that became Kawhi Leonard to the Spurs for George Hill in this time frame as well. So that's not great. But they draft Paul George in 2010 and build this team with Roy Hibbert and, the team that we know that challenged the Heat a lot and went to the Eastern
Yeah.
Conference Finals in 11, 12, 13. They trade Paul George to OKC in 2017 for Sabonis and Oladipo. Oladipo becomes basically like a top 10 player in the NBA and then destroys his knee.
Yeah.
And then they trade Sabonis for Haliburton, which is the beginning of this Eastern Conference Finals in 23 and 2014. Yes, the Kawhi thing is very, very stupid, right? That's in the loss column. But you look at all these trades, it's like Dale Davis for Jermaine O'Neal, Jalen Rose, who's at the end of his usefulness, for Ron Artest and Brad Miller. They trade Sabonis for Haliburton. They trade Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics for Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Theus, Nick Stauskas, Fitz Morgan, and a 2023 first that becomes Ben Shepherd. And look at how good Nesmith has been for this team. They give New York 2 future seconds for Obi Toppin, right? They draft Andrew Nembhard. The history of the Indiana Pacers is the history of a small market team that has continually made smart moves, smart trades. They've drafted well, and they've reinvented themselves. Like, we've had multiple iterations of this team, right? We have the Reggie Miller, Jalen Rose combination that went to 6 Eastern Conference Finals. We have the Jermaine O'Neal, Ron Artest, Reggie Miller combination, the Paul George, Danny Granger, Roy Hibbert team. And now the Haliburton, and they make this Siakam trade too, which was a little bit expensive, but it's been worth it for them. So you have this Haliburton, Siakam, Nesmith, Nembhard, Turner team that has now gone to 2 straight Eastern Conference Finals and probably the finals this year. And I just wanted to give a shout out to them because I just think it's impressive as shit.
Yeah.
That a small market team like Indy that can't get free agents could do this.
I mean, I think a lot of what it comes down to is as an organization, they've embraced what they are, right? They're not out here trying to win the same way that a larger market would. I mean, Detroit by no means is considered a big market in the NBA, but they are a significantly larger market than Indiana. They've never really fallen victim of falling into the trap of let's find our 3 stars. The reality for them is, and they've stuck to it, is we need to continue to build the best basketball team that we can because we're not going to be able to count on consistently having stars.
Yeah. Well, they've done a good job of drafting and trading for star players.
We also need to face the reality of, and this actually gives them grace on the Kawhi thing. Drafting players in the NBA really is a crapshoot outside of very few instances.
Yeah.
So yes, they have developed star players, right? They weren't drafting these star players by getting the number 1 or 2 pick.
That's what I was going to say is they drafted Reggie Miller and Paul George, and then they trade for Haliburton, who have been kind of the 3 stars of this franchise. On the flip side of this, though, I think you could say they've made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, 10 times, but they've never won the championship. So you're kind of always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And, if I'm being honest, that's what I expect this year too, is for them to get to the finals and lose to OKC. But I don't know, man. I look at other small market teams. We talked about all the mistakes that my team has made in the interest of hey, we need to get stars together. Let's trade away Tyrese Haliburton for Sabonis because we'll have him and Fox, and that's a 2 stars we can build around. Even your team, the Pistons, Detroit's not a massive market, but the death of the going to work Pistons was they were you know what? We need a star scorer. Let's trade Chauncey Billups for Allen Iverson. And then the biggest mistake they make in the post going to work era is like, hey, let's spend all of our free agency money on Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva.
God.
They gave him they paid those two guys a shitload of money and it set them back for years.
Yeah.
You know,
And Josh Smith.
Josh Smith is another good example. Let's trade a ton of stuff for Blake Griffin because we need a star. And then you get post prime broken down Blake Griffin had some fantastic years in Detroit. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you paid a lot to get that guy in. Right. So
I know he was never going to win the MVP that year, but I still stand by it. That season that he got us to the playoffs, he was the single most valuable player in the NBA. Like,
we talked about
he
that
was
too.
unstoppable.
There was like three guys in the league who had averaged like, I forget what it was. It was like 29, or was it 25, 8 and 8 or something like that is what he did. And it was like Giannis, LeBron James, and Blake Griffin. It's like, damn. So and Blake Griffin was obviously amazing. He was a superstar at one point, but
he was like post physical prime, but I think that was the best basketball he had played in his entire career.
It was the most complete basketball he played in his career.
Yeah.
I would say that for sure. But yeah, like even a team, Detroit's made a lot of mistakes. Like we can go through a whole list of franchises that have made a ton of mistakes. You look at successful ones, like you could be like, oh, well, the Spurs are a small market team. Look at all their success. But that was powered by having the first overall pick multiple times.
Yeah.
David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and now Victor Wembanyama. They've never even really had that chance to be like, hey, we're just going to draft the super duper star and build around him. They've had to be smart, and they've been extremely smart. And I think they should get a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
Although I think the other way you can look at that approach is being like, well, cool. We're always going to be a conference finals team and never win it. But my counter to that would be like, who would you rather be? You want to be the Kings and never even make the playoffs? You want to be, Detroit and lose? You guys lost like some record number of playoff games in a row?
Yeah.
It
was bad.
Yeah. Who do you want to be? You want to be Charlotte? You want to be Orlando? You want God, it ain't great. It ain't great out there for small market teams, honestly. And like, I know OKC, and we can talk about OKC in a little bit. But damn, man, they've been like the model small market team since 1989. And that is a team that I would love to be a fan of if I could. I would switch to being a Pacers fan if I could. Obviously, if you could be any team in the league right now and moving forward, everybody's picking OKC, who is also a small market team and has also done a fantastic job building. But also, OKC was given the one-time all-time windfall of any team in NBA history, where the Clippers called them and said, we'll give you SGA and 7 first for Paul George. Like, I think people forget that this OKC team was predominantly built on the profound idiocy of the LA Clippers.
Yep. Yeah. Like the sheer quantity of picks that they had on top of getting SGA is just staggering, because SGA and like a couple of picks probably should have been enough.
I see this from both sides, not to defend the Clippers, but like we've talked about this before, where at the time it was like, hey, Shea's a promising young player, but we could have Kawhi Leonard, who's the best player in the world. And to get him, we need to get Paul George in here. So like you do that, right? I could go back and understand why they would do that. But at the same time, like when you're negotiating with Sam Presti, can you not be like, hey, we're not including the 6th and the 7th pick? Like, maybe Shea and 3 first. Like, is OKC going to walk away from that? No, we want to keep Paul George. You keep your Shea and 3 first. Did it have to be the whole thing? This is what I always say about the Durant trade too. Is like, did it have to be Bridges, Johnson, and four first? Like, maybe you keep a couple of
Yeah.
those when you're negotiating. Nobody is given the profound windfall that OKC was offered, right? Like that has never happened in NBA history. It will never happen again. And
Well,
a large part of what that team is built off of.
depending on how long Nico Harrison has a job.
Talk about all-time windfalls. Luka Doncic apparently in shape right now. Looks like he lost a couple lbs. Maybe he's laying off the sweet tea. We kind of touched on the Pacers and the Knicks there. Would you do anything if you're the Knicks, or do you agree it's probably like something more around the fringes and you bring this team back?
I feel like they need their like veteran playmaker off the bench. I don't want it to happen because I really, really want him to stay in Detroit, but like Dennis Schroeder uh would be actually like very, very helpful for them. Especially like limiting the like dead minutes in the playoffs when Jalen Brunson goes to the bench. I think that would be huge for them.
Yeah. I was thinking there was a report today that Chris Paul's not expected back with the Spurs next year. Could Chris Paul be your like 10 to 15 minutes a game backup point guard in the playoffs next year?
Yeah, I
Like
could see it.
I don't hate that for them. He's a playmaker. He can come in and run your
Hmm.
offense. And
The only other thing that's bigger that I would consider is how long are we gonna stick with Tibbs? I don't think he's done anything necessarily egregious, but like I will say, I'm watching this series. Indiana is playing with a lot more confidence than New York is. And I don't think that's something that Tibbs is great at doing is like inspiring confidence.
two things on the Tibbs thing. One, you just beat the defending champions
Yep.
and a team that was heavily favored in the Boston Celtics in the second round. And I think the fact that Tatum tore his Achilles, people are like, oh, yeah, well, Tatum tore his Achilles. Like, what do you expect to happen?
No.
They were winning that anyway.
Yeah.
So he needs to get some credit
He
for
does.
beating the
Yeah.
East favorite, right? But two, like, if you're going to fire Tibbs, who's the coach you're bringing in?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are always quick to just be like, well, it's the coach. We should just fire our coach.
Yeah.
But who are you bringing in that's going to make you better?
Hmm. My team isn't necessarily looking to move on from their coach, so I have not been kind of surveying what the options are. But like, yeah, you can't make that move without like doing a lot of research. Um,
I know, like Mike
I
Malone is an interesting name after the Nuggets just
yeah,
fired him. So like, I don't know, maybe that's it. But like, you would have to explain to me why Mike Malone is the missing piece here when you
yep,
just beat the Boston Celtics,
yeah,
right? Like maybe the Pacers are just a bad matchup for you because they've now. I'm assuming the Pacers are going to win this series. Maybe they don't. Like, what if the Knicks come back and now all of a sudden you're
yeah,
sitting here like, okay, well, the same people saying fire Tibbs a week ago are the people that are
right,
handing him like coach of the year.
yeah,
But like, if the Pacers beat you 2 years in a row, are the Pacers just a bad matchup for what you want to do?
yeah,
And you just need an offseason. You're like, okay, how do we counter that? And maybe it's like
yeah.
get another defensive minded guard. Maybe we make a change here. We make a change there. Like, what did the Pacers do to beat us?
I really think that watching this series, the issue for them is you need to be able to keep up. It's not you need to slow them down. Um, I don't know, it just feels like they go stagnant too much offensively for me. And like that's been across the board the entire playoffs against Detroit, against Boston, now Indiana, like, and that's what always seems to get them into trouble. And to their credit, they've been able to get out of trouble at times for sure. But like now, like they're up against the wall because of it, right?
Yeah.
If they a couple buckets here and there across these last four games, and you're talking about a completely different scenario.
I agree with that. And I've talked about this for the last couple of weeks on this podcast is
Mhm.
like the difference between I'm going to tell you guys all right now, I am going to overrate the shit out of Tyrese Haliburton in NBA top 30. Like I am already looking at it and being like, I'm putting Tyrese Haliburton fifth. Like I think the top four, we've talked about this before, that the top four is kind of unassailable. It's
Yeah,
Jokic, Giannis, SGA, Luca,
Luca.
and
Yeah.
that fifth spot is really where the debate starts. And I'm probably putting Tyrese Haliburton there. And people are going to be like, you're overreacting. This is recency bias, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it is, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to overrate the shit out of him. And the reason I'm going to do it
The
is
Kings have really hurt you. That's
that's
why.
that's probably why. But I think like Tyrese Haliburton has this Steph Curry like quality where he brings something to the game that you can't quantify on a stat sheet.
Mhm.
And with him, it's the selflessness. And he has truly imbued this team with the we're going to play hard, we're going to play selfless, the ball's going to fly around, we're going to cut, we're going to like
Yeah.
it, other teams in the NBA don't do this. And the Knicks are the polar opposite of this. And I've complained about this for the last couple of weeks on the podcast is that
Hmm.
a lot of the Knicks offense is we're going to give the ball to Jalen Brunson and we're all going to stand back and watch
Yeah.
and we're going to let him cook. And like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, now it's Cat's turn. Let's let Cat do some ISOs. And yeah, in game 3, when Cat's ISOing Tony Bradley over and over again and cooking him, like that's great. But it gets really like the same thing I bitch about with the Boston Celtics all the time, where it's like, hey, it's Tatum's turn to ISO. No, now it's Brown's turn to ISO. Okay, back to Tatum's turn to ISO, and we're just going to jack
Yeah.
up these shots. Something I thought about with the Celtics the first game after Tatum went down, and something I've thought about a lot with the Knicks, because there have been large portions of the series where the Knicks have just looked better without Jalen Brunson on the floor.
Yeah.
Is like, it's not that Jalen Brunson's a bad player, because he's not. It's that the ball moves more and
Hmm.
everybody's more involved. And having 5 guys be more involved is always going to be better than one dude who ISOs.
Yeah.
And when you have Tyrese Haliburton as opposed to Jalen Brunson, everybody feels more involved. So everybody's working harder. And I honestly think that's why the Pacers are better than the sum of their parts,
Yeah.
is because they all play the Tyrese Haliburton way. And we're not playing Jalen Brunson ball, because we've seen, like, as great as Jalen Brunson is and as amazing
Hmm.
as he is, these are the drawbacks. And we saw this
Yeah.
with other guys who play that style. Luka Doncic, James Harden is a famous
Yep.
example. Joel Embiid. When I'm just going to give the ball to Tucker every single time down the floor, why do I bother doing anything else? That's my job. I gave the ball to Jalen Brunson. Okay, let's step back and see if he can make it or not. And when he's not scoring 40, all of a sudden you have a problem on offense.
And I think some of that too, like, it's not like I don't think that Brunson can play off ball either. Like, I think he is capable of that. He's not maximizing his capacity, sure, but like, I think he can. And like, I think that, like, that eventually goes back to your head coach. He was the head coach of the Pistons before Larry Brown for that going to work Pistons team. Like he is not unaccustomed to an offense that is unselfish.
He was
And
also the head coach of the Mavs that won the championship against the Heat.
yep.
So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Fighting JJ Bareas.
I think sometimes, yeah, fighting JJ Barea, he was truly the motor that drove that team, not any 7 foot tall Germans who could shoot the shit out of the ball. Um,
Who 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 shut down LeBron?
this is true. You can't argue with facts, people. I almost think that sometimes in the modern NBA, you can almost have a guy who's too good in isolation,
Yep.
where like this was always the problem with the Rockets, right? Is that Harden is probably the best isolation basketball player we've ever had in the NBA offensively. I I mean, maybe you could argue like Jordan, maybe there are some other guys up there, but
Yeah.
like James Harden ISO one-on-one offensively is one of the most devastating things we've ever seen in NBA history. And so analytically, you would look at that and say, this is our most efficient offense. Why wouldn't we just run this all the time? I think like a dose of Jalen Brunson ISO is a good thing and can be a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think that like when you have a guy who's that good of an isolation basketball player, like James Harden was, like Jalen Brunson is, not that he's James Harden, but you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's almost just easier to be like, we're just going to give him the ball and let him cook. And you get away from really running a whole lot of stuff. And like,
Yeah.
kind of shifting gears here too, is that's kind of what impresses me about OKC in a lot of ways too, is that like Shea is a James Harden level scorer in a lot of ways. Like he's an absolute machine scoring the basketball, but OKC doesn't seem to get stuck in these ruts where they're like, hey, we're just going to give the ball to Shea 50 times a game and just let him cook.
Yeah.
Right. Like they still run offense around it. When the offense isn't working is when they start being like, Shea, we need you to dig us out. And that's kind of the thing I'd like to see from the Knicks more is like, let's run our offense. And when that's not working, let's go to Jalen Brunson ISO basketball. Not let's do Jalen Brunson ISO basketball. And when that's not working, we'll try to figure out something else.
I don't see why you wouldn't want to get players easier shots to start the game. And that goes for your star players too. Like you can run plays for your star players. Did you know this?
This is the thing we've been complaining about with the Celtics for 4 years now. And you saw this with the Celtics when Tatum went out. That first game back in Boston, the ball moved on offense more than it's moved in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And like, obviously they are not better without Jason Tatum, right? We saw that in game 6 where the Knicks come back and absolutely whoop their asses in New York.
Yeah.
But it's just a reminder. It's like, God, when Tatum comes back, if you guys just move the ball, you could just be so much better.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be so much better offensively. But just to touch on the other series here, because there's about 2 minutes left in the first quarter and it's 23-7 OKC. They are dominating right now. And the Wolves just missed another shot. They have shot horrifically to start this game. So I think they're probably ready to go to Cancun at this point. A couple takeaways from this series. One is something I just kind of talked about with the Knicks about how things change so fast in the NBA. It's kind of hilarious that a little over a week ago, a lot of us were sitting here going like, oh man, they're like tied in that series with Denver, right? Mm-hmm. It's like going to game 7 and everybody's like, man, if they lose, like, who do they trade? What's the move? I was throwing out Giannis trades. I thought like, if you're the Bucks, that's the team you want to push all in to trade for Giannis. And we've kind of gone from like, who can they trade to get better to, oh my God, how are they going to keep SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet together? Like we went from like, which one of these guys is the best to trade to how do they even keep these guys together? Because they're too good. The 3 of them are too good. And you're going to have to give Shea a contract this summer that's going to pay him $70+ million a season.
Yeah.
And Jalen Williams has grown the F up in these playoffs and become, I think, the number two option that we all, we were all sitting here, especially me, but a lot of us were sitting here and saying, hey, man, if him and Chet can't score consistently, then this team's not winning the championship. And you watch that game 4 in Minnesota, and my guy is hitting tough shot after tough shot, huge threes. Like he's grown up and become that guy. So he's going to be a max guy, right?
Yeah.
Chet's probably going to be a max guy. And with all these new second apron rules, you probably can't keep all 3 of those guys together anymore. So now it's gone from like, yeah, they got to trade either Williams or Chet and get Shea like some help like Giannis, to we got to find a way to pay all 3 of these guys because you can't break this up within the span of about a week and a half, which is, that's just how the NBA is. It's like, Kevin Durant steps on the line and it's a 2 instead of a 3 because his toe's on the line, and the Bucks win the championship. And all of a sudden the Nets got to blow up and the Bucks got to stay together instead of the opposite. So much of this stuff comes down to one shot, one game, one thing. It completely changes the discourse around a team. And I think that's kind of part of the Knicks run it back argument, because like we are one shot away from being 2-2. And no matter what happens, the Knicks are going to come back as one of the favorites to win the East next season.
Yeah.
So I would keep that team. Other takeaways here, feel very justified in my Julius Randle take that, wow, he was amazing through 2 rounds, but I'm very skeptical if he can keep this up because he has fully turned back into a pumpkin. He's 16, 6 and 3 in this series, 16.6 rebounds, 3 assists per game. But games 2 and 4 combined, he was 3 for 18 for 11 points. And he was benched in both games. And they're probably going to extend him this summer. We forget this every year in football and basketball. The memes are the memes for a reason. We know who Julius Randle is. And I think people were like, oh, man, you can't judge Julius Randle. He's only been in the playoffs twice, and it was both in New York, and this is a new Julius Randle. And I'm here to tell you, you can judge Julius Randle. And I will pick against the Chargers in the wild card round next year. I don't care who they play. And then my last takeaway was just that Anthony Edwards, it's time to grow the fuck up. I mean, I'm not going to
be a father.
No, probably not. I'm not going to talk about all the off the court stuff with him. I'm saying like on the court, it's time to grow the fuck up, man. This is another series where like we're 1 or 2 shots away from being tied 2-2 and having a completely different conversation, because OKC wins game 4, 128-126.
Yeah.
And my guy, you lost a game where your bench gave you 60 against OKC.
Yeah.
Because you shot 5 of 13 for 16 points. And when you're interviewed about it after the game, he said he didn't take enough shots to really feel like he could say if he struggled or not. My guy, you cannot come out and shoot 2 shots in the first half of the most important game of your life. Like,
yeah,
I'm a little worried we're going to start going to Embiid territory with him, where, it's not my fault we lost. It's everybody else's fault. Why didn't, this guy. Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo outscored you in the most important game of your life.
Yes. Just want to be real careful here, though. He has already accomplished more in his career than Joel Embiid has or ever will.
Yes.
Yes, I know Embiid got that MVP. We all know that was bullshit.
Do you think he sent a fruit basket to Kendrick Perkins after he won that? I agree with you. Anthony Edwards has already accomplished more than Joel Embiid ever will. Right? I don't know if we're ever going to see Joel Embiid play 50 games again.
Yeah.
And Philly's paying him a lot of money to not do that. Also, real quick, did you see that there was a report that Philly wants to keep their star duo together of Paul George and Joel Embiid? Have you ever felt worse about a quote unquote star duo going into a season?
Oh my God.
I don't think I could possibly feel worse about something
Yeah.
that people call a star duo than
No.
next year's version of Joel Embiid and Paul George.
My God. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure like Philly fans already want to run Paul George out of town.
They were basically saying, what do they have the third pick? They were saying
Yeah.
they're going to consider. There was a lot of rumors out there of like, could they package the third with Paul George to get somebody, which I think is really interesting. It's like the number 3 pick and Paul George for Lauri Markkanen from Utah. That's a really interesting trade if I'm Utah, right? Because I'm tanking. My tanking didn't work. I dropped back in the lottery. I can get the number 3 pick, and I'm going to tank next year anyway. And I just got to deal with Paul George, who's probably going to want like a buyout and go somewhere else, right?
Paul George is a negative asset, so you already have to attach picks for me to take him. And now you want me to give you Lauri Markkanen.
No, but it's Paul George and the number 3 overall pick in this draft
Yeah.
for Lauri Markkanen. So
Yeah.
really what I'm doing is I'm getting
Yeah.
DJ Edgecombe, right? And if I'm the Utah,
Yeah.
like that's interesting because I'm not trying to compete. That's where I'm coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see the appeal. I just feel like he's not worth that.
Well,
So,
no, I wouldn't do it if I'm Philly because I'm going to circle back to my point from the very beginning of this
yeah.
podcast and say if I'm giving up assets to dump salary because I don't want to pay somebody,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that because I'm getting Lauri Markkanen, who's good.
Yeah.
What if VJ Edgecombe is great?
Yeah.
And I gave that up because I didn't want to pay Paul George. No, thank you. I don't want to be on that side of that trade. I would do it if I'm Utah. I'd be calling that in right now. I'd be like, I'll give Paul George a buyout.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I'm not spending my money on anything next season.
Well, especially if you already know, like, you're not moving forward with Markkanen, you're probably not going to get more than the third
Well,
overall pick.
they hid Markkanen in like Slovakia this season so that he wouldn't play.
Yeah.
They wanted to be as bad as possible. So they're like, Markkanen, just leave, go somewhere, hide where the NBA can't find you. Yeah, man, Anthony Edwards. When he came out after game 3 and was like, yeah, I didn't really take enough shots to say if I was struggling or not. First of all, 5 for 13 is struggling. It is. And the fact that you only took 13 shots tells me that you were scared and you were tentative. And and people, other podcasters today have been like, well, what do you want Anthony Edwards to do? Take 25 shots if he's not playing well? Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I want. I want you to be aggressive. I want you to get some free throws in, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to like maybe 25 is too much if you're not playing well, but get to the rim, get fouled,
But
have an impact.
If you're struggling to get going, how are you going to get going without shooting?
I'm like,
because explain to me how Minnesota wins against OKC without Anthony Edwards getting going.
yeah. You cannot lose a game where your bench gave you 60 against OKC.
No.
At home. You can't do it. And I could foresee a world where people start joining you and me and Clint on the anti-Anthony Edwards bandwagon. I mean, Clint is driving the wagon, right?
Yes.
Clint is at the front. He's got I don't know why I'm suddenly picturing the bandwagon as like an old timey wagon with like the cover, like Oregon Trail wagon. But Clint's the one whipping the horses, man. He's like, hey, fuck Anthony Edwards every time he whips those horses. But you and I are riding. We're in the covered wagon.
Yeah.
Clint was the one that put Anthony Edwards like in what did he rank him last year? Like 23, something like that, which seemed batshit insane, but The more Anthony Edwards I watch and the more children he has, the more I'm like, I don't know, man. Clint's kind of onto something. Um, and I know, like we went over the whole thing a couple weeks ago. Like, yeah, he's
Yeah.
charming. Yeah, he's awesome off the court.
Mhm.
But if you put up that kind of performance and lose this series, now you've lost two Western Conference Finals in a row, probably 4-1 each year. Granted, this year it was to a vastly better team. Like
Yeah.
the Thunder have grown up a lot in these playoffs and just have become an absolute wrecking ball. And I think the bigger question now is not who is going to win the championship this year, because I fully expect it to be the Thunder.
Yeah.
It is who is stopping this team for the foreseeable future. Because, yes, the second apron may be the death of this team as far as having Shea, J-Dub, and Chet goes. But it's going to take a couple years before that kills them. So
Yeah.
I look at how the league is currently laid out, and I'm like, dude, if they're going to play the way that they've played in this playoffs and they're going to grow up the way that they've grown up in these playoffs, y'all ain't stopping them next year. Like, book that second championship right now. And the way that this team is set up for the future, as long as Sam Presti's there, man, I'm like, if they have Shea, they're going to be in it. Maybe something dramatic happens, like the Spurs go out and get Giannis, and it's like Giannis and Wembanyama, and that's something they got to worry about. But like, I'm not particularly worried about the East if I'm the Thunder, and outside of like something massive happening in the West, like the Lakers becoming a super team with like LeBron, Luca, and whatever else they can add. I don't know, man. If they're healthy next season, I don't know what you do, because this team has become an absolute steamroller, and they've checked all the boxes I wanted them to check. You know,
Yeah. I mean, remember like a handful of years ago when we were looking at OKC and like, yeah, they had Shea, they had all of these picks, and we're just sitting here like, what are you guys even doing? Because you can't even use all of these picks. It is kind of wild to see it finally all like come to fruition. I don't know whether or not this was like some grand divine plan that Sam Presti thought out like in advance, or if things just kind of fell into place year after year. But Jesus Christ, it's fucking worked.
well, I mean, they've done a phenomenal job drafting
Yeah,
with the picks they've used, right? Like J Dub is, what was he, 13th, 14th overall, something like that.
something like that. Yeah.
He's a max level player. The, Chet was an obvious pick, but still a good one. Case and Wallace, like some of these
Mhm.
Isaiah Joe, like some of these guys they've drafted are very good. The Caruso Hartenstein double dip this offseason,
Hmm.
kind of like being like, hey, we lost last year. What do they, and this is where I'm at with the Knicks right now, too, is like, yeah, we lost. What moves can we make that make
Yeah.
us a better team without giving up significant parts of the team? And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they go get Caruso and Hartenstein, and they've both had massive impacts for them this season. But, and like, there are also guys they've drafted we haven't even seen yet. Nikola Topic sat out the whole year because he tore his ACL.
Hmm.
Like, they're just going to unleash him next season. We don't know what he could possibly be. Um, with the other guy, Osmani Dang, who they're like, yeah, this guy's like a 3-4 year project that we're going to try to build up, but we really like him. And I kind of look at it now, and the thing we've said on this podcast a lot is like, yeah, well, they can't possibly use all those picks. They got to trade them for something. What if they can use all those picks? We haven't asked that question, because with this second apron rule,
Yeah.
you're going to have to keep finding cheap replacements, not for SGA and J Dub. Those are like
but
you
for the
probably
rest of the roster,
right, exactly. It's like if you
yeah.
want to pay SGA $70 million and J-Dub, 45 or whatever it's going to be, and Chet 45, right? Like that's going to take up so much of your salary cap. Maybe you can't afford the Carusos and the Hartensteins and the other guys, but you draft their replacements. You draft the Case and
Hmm.
Wallaces. You draft the Case and Wallaces and you let Dort go. You draft your next center and you let Hartenstein go. You draft your next guard and you let Caruso go. And you just keep, and the picks that you can't use is like, oh hey, we're out of roster space. Oh hey, other team, here's a first. Give me a future first. You just keep pushing the extra assets forward and just keep
Yeah.
using them to replenish this roster. I don't know. Like you said, is it a grand plan by Presti? Did he see the second apron thing coming ahead of time and prepare himself for it? Or is it Kismet and it just worked out really well for him?
Yeah.
I don't know. But like, I mean, if you could be any team in the league right now, you're being OKC.
Oh, yeah.
You're the best team, you're the youngest team, and you have the most assets. That's insane. And the only thing that makes me nervous about it is I feel like we've been here with OKC before, where it's like, oh my God, Westbrook, Harden, Durant, and Ibaka are in the finals. And the oldest one of those guys is like 23 years old. OKC is going to dominate the league for the next 10 years. And they never make it back to the finals. And I think like you could look at that and look at basically what happened is the Warriors.
Hmm.
And I'll just warn everybody like, yeah, looking at it right now, I can't tell you who's throwing the OKC train off the tracks. But back then, none of us saw the Warriors coming. We don't know who's coming.
No.
You never know. This is the beautiful thing about the NBA is you just never know who it could be. I know who it couldn't be, and that's the Sacramento Kings. But it could be anyone else. It could be. And honestly, like my sister texted me today. We were talking about the Pacers. She's like, I'm reading up on the lore of your people because Kings fans are in shambles today. And I'm like, yes, please enjoy our misery. But she was like, do you think the Pacers can win the championship? And I said, no, because I don't think they can beat Oklahoma City. And once that finals is official, we'll do a podcast and we'll do the breakdown of why I think that. But also, we've been underestimating Indiana for what, 2 years now? People have been
Yep.
underestimating them. So, like, who's to say, like, what if Indiana just wins the championship this year? And we're back here in like 2 weeks and we're like, could they do a Giannis trade? Who do you put in it? I don't know. But I'm going back to my original point, man. Things change. One shot, one game, one toe over the line. Stuff changes fast in this league, man.
The East is definitely like the power is shifting in the East. You know, Boston is no longer going to be the prohibitive favorite, and like we don't even know what their plan is going forward because we don't know what we're going to see from Tatum, right? Uh,
Can I ask you a question without you getting too excited?
sure.
What if the contender nobody sees coming is the Detroit Pistons?
What if I was already thinking that?
I I could tell. I was like, yeah, but if you say it, it sounds like you're a homer. If I introduce it, it's like something to think about, food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, one shot is the difference in this series for the Knicks, right? Well, we both thought Detroit looked like the better team in the series against the Knicks anyways, and they did that without two vitally important players for them in
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart. And they got some cap space.
I was listening to Bill Simmons this morning, and he's like, if I could be any team in the East, I'd want to be the Pacers. And I understand the argument for that. But I kind of look at it. I'm like, dude, if I could be any team in the East, I think I'd want to be the Pistons.
Yeah.
I have Cade, who I think has upside to be a top 5 player in the league.
Hmm.
Speaking of guys I'm going to overrate in NBA top 30 this offseason, I have Cade, I have cap space, I have young players, I have assets,
Hmm.
right? I have everything I need to build a contender right now.
Yeah.
So, like, what if Ivy is the Clay? He's the second guy
Yeah.
who's another amazing guard.
And
Okay.
he was playing great before he got hurt because Cole Anthony decided to dive at his shin
Yeah. All I'm
and
going to
then did
say,
that to like five other dudes this year. Dirty
all,
ass player.
all I'm going to say is that nobody saw the Clay Curry Draymond thing coming.
Hmm.
What if people don't see the Cade Ivy Duran thing coming?
I don't think they do, but like
No, I mean, people outside Detroit don't.
it's a serious threat to the rest of the East.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that they're going to be those guys, but I'm just saying, like, people didn't see that Warriors combo coming.
Mm-mm.
And, like, what if Duran and Ivy just descend to a level that we didn't think they were going to, or that people didn't think they were going to? And it's like all of a sudden, holy shit, Cade's a top 5 player. You know, Duran and Ivy are both top 25 players. Now it's time to roll. Something to think about is that, like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we didn't see the Warriors coming. We didn't see it coming.
Is
Not in the
is
way it
there
came.
someone that you can see emerging from the West as a threat? Maybe not beating OKC, but a challenger that would be unforeseen.
Unforeseen is hard. The team that my mind goes to first is the Houston Rockets.
Hmm.
What if Thompson develops an offensive game?
Yeah.
Şengün takes a step forward. They have young players. They have assets. They can make a trade, right? Like,
Yep.
what if Giannis is on the Rockets next season and
Yeah.
they don't have to give up Van Vliet or Şengün or Thompson? Like, what if they
Yep.
figure that out? I'm gonna throw like a weird one at you. The Portland Trailblazers.
I
I
knew
mean,
you were going to say that.
well,
Go on.
if we're just saying, like, what if a bunch of guys hit their ceiling?
Hmm.
Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp. I liked Klingon coming out.
Hmm.
They have some other, like, good young pieces who could develop. Like, what if they nail their pick in this draft? Like, what if that's an absolute home run? I don't know. Like, if you're saying someone that nobody could see coming, I think the Rockets is like, yeah, we could see the Rockets coming,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't say nobody could see it coming. Potentially San Antonio.
Yeah, I didn't say San Antonio because I feel like that's obvious with Wemby.
Yeah.
I
But it
honestly,
would be a big jump from winning 34 games.
yeah, I think so much this offseason is going to depend on where Giannis goes,
Yep.
if he goes anywhere, because that's the first thing that pops in my mind is I'm like, well, what if the Rockets get Giannis? What if the Spurs get Giannis? What if the Lakers get Giannis for absolutely nothing because they're the Lakers, and the Bucks are like, how can we help you, LA? Like, that, I think that's the biggest domino to fall. And after that, it's a lot of luck. But honestly, I'm not saying this just because I love you. Maybe it's partially because I love you. But if you said which team out of nowhere, like a team that people do not see coming, that could just ascend in the next 3 years,
Hmm.
I think my first pick is the Pistons because of Cade, because of all the young
Yeah.
guys. They also have a Thompson. What if that Thompson, like, what if Ron Holland becomes a really good piece? Like,
Yeah.
progress isn't linear, but what if it's just exponential for them in the next couple of years? I don't know. But with that thought, that is it for us. As always, Foul Duck can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com, and you can find our videos on TikTok, Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It is a long name, but you can't miss it. The Thunder are womping the Wolves right now. It's 55-27. We're almost at the half. So I'm just going to assume that they are winning the Western Conference. We will see with the Pacers. I think the Knicks probably win game 5. The Pacers win game 6 back at home would be my guess. And we have a Pacers Thunder finals to talk about when Matt and I are back next week. And when we do have a finals, we will be back to break it down for you guys, give you picks, break down the angles of the series narratively and on the court, and probably talk about what's next for a couple other teams as well. But until then, enjoy the basketball, enjoy the hockey, and we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, Robin.